Napoleon Bonaparte. That name makes you think of amazing armies and big empires, but off the battlefield, he changed the world in ways we still see today. Picture this, it's 1804 and Napoleon makes himself Emperor of France. He was super powerful, controlling tons of land and changing how wars were fought. Today, we'll look at 5 surprising ways Napoleon still affects us. Number 1, the Napoleonic Code. This was a revolutionary set of laws established by Napoleon Bonaparte in the early 19th century. It was a comprehensive reformation of the French legal system, which had a profound impact on the legal frameworks of many other countries. We often talk about the laws of physics, like gravity, that control the universe. These laws are fundamental and unchanging, governing the behavior of everything from the smallest particles to the largest celestial bodies. Well, Napoleon had his own set of laws, and they changed countries just like gravity changes stars. His legal code was designed to bring order and fairness, and it spread far beyond France, influencing legal systems around the world. His laws were totally different from the old ways. Before the Napoleonic Code, laws were often inconsistent and varied greatly from one region to another. Napoleon's code brought a unified legal system that was clear and accessible. Everyone was equal under these laws, and you could succeed no matter who your family was. This was a radical departure from the past, where social status and family connections often determined one's fate. Imagine a world where it didn't matter if you were born a prince or a farmer. The same laws applied to everyone. This was the essence of the Napoleonic Code, promoting equality and meritocracy. That was Napoleon's idea. He believed in a legal system that was fair and just, where everyone had the same opportunities and responsibilities. This wasn't just talk. Napoleon's vision was put into practice, and the effects were far-reaching. Napoleon's laws spread across Europe and even further, changing legal systems in over 70 countries. This widespread influence is a testament to the power and effectiveness of his legal reforms. From America to Asia, his ideas showed up in courts and constitutions. The principles of the Napoleonic Code can be seen in the legal systems of many modern nations. Even now, hundreds of years later, these laws still affect us. The concepts of equality before the law and the importance of a clear, accessible legal system are still relevant today. Think about that the next time you sign something important or vote. The principles that Napoleon championed continue to shape our world in ways we might not even realize. Napoleon's ideas might be closer than you think. His vision of a fair and just legal system lives on, influencing our daily lives and the functioning of societies around the globe. Number 2, Napoleon changed Europe's borders. But what does that really mean? Well, it wasn't just about drawing new lines on a map, it was about reshaping the entire continent in ways that would have lasting impacts for centuries to come. Everyone knows Europe has had lots of fights over land. These conflicts were not just about territory, they were about power, influence, and control. The battles were fierce, and the stakes were incredibly high, but Napoleon didn't just change lines on a map, he changed everything. His conquests and reforms altered the political landscape, the social fabric, and even the economic systems of Europe. He introduced new laws, new ways of governance, and new ideas that would ripple through history. Imagine countries spinning and bumping into each other, all because of Napoleon. His actions set off a chain reaction, causing alliances to form and break, and nations to rise and fall. It was like a giant game of geopolitical chess, with Napoleon as the master player. He got rid of the Holy Roman Empire, which had been around for a super long time, over 1,000 years. This was no small feat. It was a monumental shift that paved the way for new political entities to emerge and made new friends and enemies. His alliances were strategic, aimed at consolidating his power and expanding his influence, but these alliances were fragile and often short-lived, leading to a constantly shifting political landscape. This wasn't just about land, it was about who people thought they were. National identity began to take shape in ways it hadn't before. People started to see themselves not just as subjects of a king, but as citizens of a nation. Napoleon's actions made people feel more connected to their country. This sense of national pride and identity would fuel movements for independence and unification across the continent. It's like stars coming together to make a galaxy. These changes were huge. The political and social constellations of Europe were being realigned, creating a new order that would shape the future of the world. People wanted to rule themselves, and revolutions started. The ideas of liberty, equality, and fraternity spread like wildfire, inspiring uprisings and revolutions that would change the course of history. Countries like Germany and Italy, which used to be lots of little pieces, started becoming the countries we know today. The unification movements were driven by a desire for national unity and independence, ideas that were sparked by Napoleon's actions. Napoleon, wanting all that power, accidentally changed Europe forever. His ambition and vision set off a series of events that would reshape the continent, leaving a legacy that is still felt today. The Europe we know now is, in many ways, a product of Napoleon's grand designs and unintended consequences. Number 3, economic warfare. We usually think of war as armies fighting, but Napoleon was good at a different kind of war, economic warfare. Instead of just relying on his military might, he aimed to cripple his enemies through their wallets. This strategy was both innovative and risky, showing Napoleon's willingness to think outside the box. His weapon, the continental system. This was a large-scale embargo against British trade, designed to weaken the British economy by cutting off its access to European markets. Napoleon believed that if he could isolate Britain economically, he could force them to surrender without firing a single shot. He wanted to stop Britain from trading, like cutting all the strings on a spider web. By severing these connections, he hoped to destabilize the British economy and diminish their ability to fund the war effort. It was a bold move, akin to trying to dismantle a complex network with a single stroke. He wanted to hurt Britain's economy. The idea was to create economic hardship that would lead to political pressure within Britain to end the war. By targeting the financial lifeline of his enemy, Napoleon aimed to bring Britain to its knees. It was a big risk. Implementing such a vast economic blockade required the cooperation of many European nations, and not all of them were willing to comply. The success of the continental system depended on the unity and resolve of Napoleon's allies, which was far from guaranteed. And like most risks, it didn't go exactly as planned. Many countries found ways to circumvent the blockade, and smuggling became rampant. The economic strain also affected France and its allies, leading to widespread discontent and resistance. It did mess up trade, but it also made Britain stronger. The British adapted by developing new trade routes and markets outside of Europe. This not only mitigated the impact of the blockade, but also spurred economic innovation and growth. It's like trying to hold back an explosion. It just makes it bigger. The pressure of the blockade forced Britain to expand its global reach, ultimately strengthening its economy and military capabilities. Britain had to find new ways to do things and new places to trade, which helped them become a superpower. The necessity to innovate and adapt led to advancements that fueled the Industrial Revolution, setting the stage for Britain's dominance in the 19th century. Napoleon trying to hurt Britain actually helped them. His attempt to weaken his enemy backfired, demonstrating the unpredictable nature of economic warfare. Instead of collapsing, Britain emerged more resilient and powerful than before. Even the best plans can go wrong, especially when it comes to money and trade. Napoleon's continental system is a classic example of how economic strategies can have unintended consequences, reshaping the world in ways no one could have predicted. Number 4, military innovations. We can't talk about Napoleon without talking about fighting. He was a genius at war, changing how it was done. He learned everything from the best generals in history like Alexander the Great and Julius Caesar. But he wasn't just copying them, he was coming up with new ideas. He organized his armies so they could move really fast. Imagine a perfect machine, every part working together as Napoleon's armies marched across Europe. His tactics, like surprising the enemy and using lots of soldiers, are still studied today. He basically wrote the book on modern war, and armies still learn from him. Number 5, the rise and fall of empires. Napoleon didn't just affect Europe, he affected the whole world, especially countries controlled by European empires. Imagine ripples spreading out from Europe as Napoleon weakened the control these empires had over their colonies. It's like when one planet's gravity affects other planets. Because European countries were busy fighting Napoleon, they couldn't control their colonies as well. This gave people in those colonies a chance to fight for freedom. It's like a tiny thing causing something big to happen. Napoleon, who wanted to control everything, accidentally helped people become free. Napoleon did more than just win and lose battles. He changed countries, economies, and ideas, leaving a complicated but important mark on the world. From the laws we have to the borders of countries, from how armies fight to people fighting for freedom, Napoleon is everywhere. History isn't just old stories, it affects